Hey there, it is Lisa Danforth, and today I'm here with the spectacular Shannon McCombie. Shannon is an executive leadership coach and a team building expert. Today she's going to be talking about stop trying to fit in and wield the power of non-conformity, that is just singing in my heart, Shannon, really. I'm really excited to jump in. But before we start the conversation, what I'd really like to do is give you a little bit of information about Shannon, and you'll know why she's here talking about this today. So Shannon has developed and led training programs for the Navy SEALs, right? You heard me correctly, for Navy SEALs. She's also worked on national security issues, including counterterrorism, counter-narcotics, and information technology for the CIA. Shannon has also built and led teams from startups to Fortune 30 companies. And the thing with Shannon is she has lived all over the world. So she knows a lot about, conformity, fitting in, and those different things because of the different cultures and different environments. So Shannon grew up, she's lived in West Africa, Madagascar, the Congo, France, and of course, the US. So thank you so much for joining us today, Shannon. I'm super excited about this topic. And I'd say let's just jump right in. You want to do that?
That sounds great. Thanks, Lisa. It's great to be here.
So I'm going to start with a question of how do you maintain that authenticity, especially when you're traveling all over in different cultures and in different environments?
I like that you use the word authenticity because this is about stop trying to fit in. And having lived in all sorts of different environments growing up, I didn't realize I was different until much later in life. And so I actually didn't try to fit in because I didn't know I should be doing that. It was great. When I was a kid, I lived in West Africa in Brazzaville, Congo, and at the time there were very few white American families living in Brazzaville. And so my brothers and I didn't see anything different by our race or our nationality. It wasn't until my late 20s when I was back in Madagascar as an adult, and I went for a jog in a rice paddy near the neighborhood where I was living, and there were these Malagasy kids that joined me, and they were all running along and just reaching out their arms and reaching them back, and I didn't know what they were doing. And finally, one of them touched my skin, and he rubbed my skin, looked at his fingers to see if the white of my skin rubbed off. And it was at that moment that I realized to them I was different because of my skin color. First time in my life. And so the trick that I realized then is now I'm looking at my work life where I've worked in all these male-dominated organizations. I was different there. I went back to corporate America and I was working there thinking, finally, I'm going to fit in. I'm going to be the same because it was a very diverse company. So there was a lot of gender diversity, race, nationality, functional background, everything. And I still didn't fit in because now my life experiences where I've lived, what I've done, has created and forced me to think differently, interact differently, communicate differently. So I realized, back to the authenticity piece, that's what I needed to focus on. I didn't try to fit in. That was successful. But what did happen is because of those experiences in life, people created images about me of how they thought I should interact, how they thought I should be. And I was morphing into that, which wasn't my authentic self. So the first thing you need to do is realize, who are you? Not who people think you should be, not what is trendy at the moment, but what really fulfills you, makes you happy, engages with you. Once you figure out who you are, you just need to own it. And you can go from there. I think that's been the hardest thing for me, Lisa, is figuring out who I am. Because of the extreme things that I've done, people expect me to do that in all aspects of life, and I don't.
That is a great story. Thank you for sharing it because it really highlights all that you've been through. But I also just want to say to anyone who is watching, please go to Shannon's LinkedIn profile and check out her article on Stop Trying to Fit In. It talks about that story that she just said. And that was one of the reasons why I was like, I need to have her on my LinkedIn because authenticity is something that is so tough for us for some reason to lean into. We're taught that we need to be someone else. I love the quote by Brene Brown, the greatest barrier to belonging is fitting in. And the fact that you didn't even realize that was going on it's spectacular. But the thing is saying just figure out who you are is not always the easiest. Can you share with us that journey? Like, what was it that you started to do that allowed you to step into this new place and explore?
Sure, Lisa. And Lisa asked me to be raw and open, so I'm going to be very open in this story. But for me, people expected me to do these extreme things at this point of my life. Whether it be read The Economist or be into CrossFit or climb Mount Everest, in whatever aspect, doing something to an extreme level. I do like The Economist, but I also like Southern living, Better Homes and Garden, glamour. I love working out. CrossFit is not for me. And I love hiking, but I have zero desire to hike Mount Everest. So what I realized is I was either doing things that people expected me to do and not fully engaged or happy about it, or I wasn't doing things people expected me to do or that I wanted to do because I didn't think I would be successful at the level that others expected me to be. And yes, it was it was really embarrassing to realize that. But as some examples, I loved judo and jujitsu, but I stopped doing it because I didn't know if I'd be any good. I would go to professional lectures and seminars, but wouldn't ask questions because I was afraid maybe my question would be dumb. I love rock climbing, but I wear out really fast, so I stopped doing it. I even put off graduate school because I didn't think my grades would be good enough. And so one day in this journey to figure out who my authentic self was, I realized, gosh, I'm missing out on life. I'm missing out on happiness, engagement, and I'm not coming fully present to my teams at work either. And so I started to do all those things. I went to graduate school. I did just fine. I did not climb Mount Everest, but I hike all the time. I go to lectures. I ask questions. And then I took it to the workplace because how do we bring our authentic self to the workplace? When I was with the Navy, I would do jujitsu with the guys there. I got destroyed every time, for sure. But it was really important for them to see me trying, to be vulnerable, to be trying something new, to be pushing myself outside of my ways. When I was at Comcast and I saw some of my team members come on here, we would do team building activities of singing karaoke. I have a terrible voice, terrible. But I went and I sang. It was embarrassing. But why this is so important, I've found, is that when your team can see you in an element that's not yours, see you fail, perhaps falter, or have this really unique talent, you show that authentic side to them as well. And that's incredibly powerful for numerous reasons. And so that's been the journey for me. And now I sometimes fall back into the old ways, but try to remind myself, just be me, figure out who you are, and then own it. And it's incredibly powerful, both at home and in the workplace.
I love what you're saying about you were embarrassed to do these different things, right? But you still stepped forward anyway. Once you started gaining that clarity, it sounded like you paused. I'm a big proponent of pausing and just thinking and observing and seeing what's going on and what's the emotion that we're feeling instead of running from it. That you were vulnerable with the people around you. You put yourself out there. And that's a huge component of authenticity, is being able to be vulnerable, be yourself, understand that not everyone's going to like you. And that is okay, as long as, right, more people will like you when you show up.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about burnout and the importance of being vulnerable, showing up as your authentic self and not conforming?
So I'll take those as two separate questions.
It could probably be 6. But.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first one of burnout. Have you ever tried to thumb wrestle and play rock, paper, scissors at the same time?
Oh, gosh, no.
Imagine that in your head. Chaos, right?
Complete chaos. Complete chaos.
Because what you're doing is you are essentially trying to multitask. You are trying to do 2 things and using your brain for 2 completely discrete tasks at the same time. This is not possible. There has been proof that shows that we cannot multitask. We can move very quickly from one task to another, but we can't multitask. When we're trying to fit in, when we're trying to be someone we're not, we're trying to multitask. And it's proven something's going to fail.
You just blew my mind on that one. Can you repeat that?
When we are trying to be someone we're not, because we're trying to fit in, we are trying to multitask.
I love it.
And we're unable to do that. Our brains are unable of multitasking. And so when you do that, something is going to fail. We get myopic vision. We're not as present around us. It's not successful. And so we're juggling so much at life, at work, at the home front, everywhere. We're trying to find ways to optimize our life. So why are we playing rock, paper, scissors, and thumb wrestling at the same time, trying to fit in when we can just be us, be ourselves? So I think that if we don't do that, it leads to incredible emotional strain, incredible burnout,
exhaustion,
and complete exhaustion. And we're already exhausted. So just be you, and that helps that part of the journey very much.
I just want to say, Deanna says, thanks, Shannon, for being so relatable. And that's so important, right? It's that vulnerable piece. You're showing up as authentic, which means that you are relatable. And Rhonda says, totally agreed. Great points. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks, ladies. Et merci à Diana. I know Diana from before. Elle parle français comme moi. I said thank you to Diana. She's a French speaker from Africa as well. So we've gotten to know each other over the years. It's good to see her on here. Thank
you for joining us. Definitely. All right. So you said there was a second part of that.
Yeah. So, and this comes up with the relatability and what are the benefits of that. So the moment that we show our vulnerable side, that we are relatable, we also break down this wall. So if we come across trying to be someone we're not, we are subconsciously creating this barrier between ourselves and others, or ourselves and the team. And this is incredibly difficult because there's just a block. The moment that our team sees us doing jiu-jitsu and getting destroyed, or singing terribly karaoke, or walking around or zooming around today with your team and sharing about your weekend or a favorite hobby you have, or something, a vulnerable part of you that we used to in the past hold aside, it's encouraging them to come forward with their authentic self. It's making you more approachable. And so what this does, at least what I've found, is that the worst thing is to have somebody on your team who has this brilliant idea, but isn't comfortable coming to you with that idea, or has a problem and equally isn't comfortable coming to you with that problem. Once you show your authentic self, you encourage others to do the same, you connect and relate, you are giving your team permission to, one, be their authentic self, two, to try new things, and also to fail. But the alternative to failure is success. So you're also giving your team the chance to innovate and create and be much more successful as well.
What's coming to my mind is trust, right? We are trusting ourselves. And when we do that, we're actually showing trust in the people around us as leaders, as individuals, to step forward. This is a safe space for you to be who you are and contribute at the highest level. So don't be afraid. And I think trust is such an important component. At least I know in coaching, there has to be this level of trust before anyone's going to be vulnerable, before anyone's going to bring forth what they need to work on. And so I love that tying in of that. Thank you for talking about that with a team, because as a leader, we need to be exhibiting that trust, that authenticity, and the vulnerability to allow other people to fail if we're willing to.
That's right. I think that's an interesting point that you bring up on trust, because a lot of us trying to fit in is due, I think, to this concept of homophily. And it's essentially that we attract people that are like us, and we expect that we'll get along better with them and work will be better, and that like us could be across many dimensions, whether it's gender, race, functional background, hometown, school. But we create this, it's based off of probably some incorrect assumptions that if there are people who are like us, they're going to behave and act like us. If people behave and act like us, there's that sense of predictability. When there's predictability, you get trust. And when you get trust, you get bonds and connection. But that's a false foundation. And so
you just blew that out of the water.
So we're trying to fit in and be like people around us so that we can create that trust and that connection. But if you build it out, it's all false.
It's absolutely impossible.
Yep.
Right. And I've experienced that. I know as a business owner, I always felt like I needed to show up with that more of a masculine energy, because that's the way that we need to be as entrepreneurs and as business owners. The more I have allowed my authentic self, the more that I have been the nonconformist, the more freedom I have, the more flexibility I have, and the more success that I've experienced when I'm not conforming. Because I think we can all sense, we can be like, that person's really nice, but I can't quite put my finger on them. right? So,
yeah. And we've been doing that for years. I think we have had women trying to get into the workplace or getting into the workplace at a very early on, wearing these boxy suits instead of feminine office attire. And we did that because we thought that's what we had to do to be successful, when that's not the case. Or I know that some women will straighten our hair and we strip our hair of our ethnicity's beauty to try to fit in. Mm-hmm. And as you said, that's creating this barrier with people, and we're not able to see those sides. One of a contact of yours, Lisa, that I met through you, and we had virtual tea together, Ginny Jolly.
She's great.
She's wonderful, and shared with me this beautiful story of how she moved here to the U.S. from India, was an entrepreneur. She was wearing the Western attire, and she was successful enough. And then one day she decided, I'm going to be me. I'm going to be my authentic self. I'm going to wear my Indian saris. And she said business turned around. Because if people can't trust you're acting like who you're supposed to be, how are they going to trust you in business? But if you come forward how you are, whether it be physically, mentally, everything, the trust is more quickly received.
And I just want to back up just a second and say, we felt we needed to be more masculine, but we all have masculine and feminine within us, right? Some more than others. But I think we also have to provide a space for men to step forward and own some of that feminine, what is normally or culturally deemed as feminine, and allow them to be more of their authentic self as well. Brian, thanks for commenting. You said, I have found not being your authentic self transfers to those you're trying to lead as being fake. So true. You lose credibility and ultimately trust. Brilliant as always, Shannon.
Brian, great to see you. Thanks for the comment.
And a good friend of mine, Donna Cravata, 100% you need to be you. People know when you show up as someone else. Right. Donna is 100% Donna. It's what I love most about her, right? It's so, showing up and it invites people to step forward. So can you talk a little bit about why do people show up and not be authentic? If you can just share a little bit about that.
I think it's simply because we want to fit in, and we crave attention, we crave connection, we crave those bonds, and we don't trust that ourself will be enough. We don't value ourself enough to believe that people are going to want to be connected with that person. And so we step forward as an inauthentic self, trying to morph and change and be someone we're not. And again, it goes back to that concept of homophily that I shared, that we believe that phenomenon is what's going to make us connect with other people, when in fact, it's a really silly endeavor because, as I said, it's built on a false foundation. And I've had the privilege, because I don't think I realized I was different until my late 20s.
Lucky you. I'm just going to interrupt you.
I am very, very grateful. I see that as a gift. But because of that, I got to integrate with different communities much more easily. And so I'd always hear people trying to be like one of the guys or act like the locals. And I would be with the guys or the locals, and they would roll their eyes, they'd push them back, they would mock them because they were being fake. They were not being their authentic self. And people, as has been shared with our guests here, people see that and they don't feel that attraction and that connection. But we need to work on our own self-value and our self-worth and know who we are in order to break that down.
Self-value and self-worth. It's so dependent for some reason externally and for so many people.
That's right. Yeah.
What are some of the resources that you could recommend for people? Because like I said in the beginning, it is hard for people. We don't even realize we're being someone else because we have been that inauthentic self for so long. It's the lens through which we see and experience life. So we're not even realizing that we're doing it. Can you give some ideas or some resources for people to start exploring different avenues and different angles?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part of it, because then once you know who you are, it's just being you. So it's really easy the rest of the journey. I think if you can carve out time to really reflect on yourself, which is hard these days, whether it be through journaling and asking yourself these prompting questions, what makes you happy? What gives you fear? What makes you calm? What do you strive for? And again, you're doing this about you, not what's trendy, not what other people expect, but what is about you. If you do that, that is very helpful. If you can have a conversation with a dear, raw friend who will just tell you how they see you, because sometimes you learn more about yourself from other people, which is the craziest thing. And then even coaching. I haven't been to a coach, but I have friends who have. Lisa, I know you do this, and there's great people out there. Enlist their services and talk to them and have them ask these questions and work with you to brainstorm out who are you and what really fulfills you and makes you happy.
Excellent. I really enjoy what you just said, because I remember years ago a coach suggested that I reach out to 2, 3, 4 of my closest friends and have them write down what they like most about me, what they feel is just authentic about me, because it was consistent with everyone that I asked, but a bunch of it was inconsistent with how I viewed myself.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm going to say my dear friend Laura Hill, she wrote I actually printed it out and I will look at it still. And it was probably 5 years ago that she did that, so that I can reconnect to who I am and trust that I am enough, that I do have enough self-worth, self-esteem to just step out and be like, this is who I am. And again, not everyone's going to like me, and that's okay.
No. But the right people will, and you can do much better business. There are incredible benefits to being your authentic self. I mean, from the reasons that we shared to simple things as networking. Networking is one of the most daunting tasks I think that exists. Everyone doesn't like it. And now it's even more awkward because we're doing it from our homes with people around on the other side of the screen and on the virtual way. But if you say something silly or say something raw, or you are who you are, people are more attracted to you. I think, I've heard be interesting and interested. You want to have an interesting story to tell, sure, be interested in the other person. But it's that authenticity on both sides that's going to create that attraction. There's also, it breaks down blind spots. It decreases our blind spots because we're not multitasking now. So we have the ability to look more openly of everything going around us. If we're trying to be not trying to be inauthentic, but are, because we're trying to fit in, we are so focused on that of what is it that I have to wear? What is it that I have to say? How do I have to act? Who do I need to talk to fit in? We now have that myopic focus on just those things. We lose sight of everything else we lose sight of everything else going around us, of what our team needs, what's going great with them, where their struggles are, what else can we be doing, who should we be interacting, what's the business plan. So it opens up our aperture, which I think is really, really great. And as I've said, it permits us to be stronger leaders. It allows us to be more approachable. It allows us to know truly what is going on with our team, their strengths, their challenges, what's going right, what's going wrong, because they'll feel comfortable sharing with us, and they'll feel comfortable trying, failing, and innovating.
I'm hearing you say it decreases burnout and it improves relationships, personally and professionally.
That's right. So why aren't we doing it?
Well, I think a lot of it is we are told to be someone else, but also like I said, I really do think that it is the lens through which we see and experience life. We don't pause long enough and think and just create. I remember seeing a statistic one time. It was something about people would rather, and this could be extreme, but would almost rather, I think, die than actually sit and think about themselves, just and have time with themselves, which is so frightening and so telling why we are at times being inauthentic.
Yeah. Well, they often say we need to slow down to speed up, and that goes to the sense of pause. I think one of the challenges is that we are in a society that looks up to role models, which I think is really, really great. But we don't have role models in every aspect of life, in every vertical that we want to do, or every industry that we want to do. And so if we don't have a role model, we're trying to find somebody who could be, and then we're trying to be like them. Because they were successful, whatever they did made them successful. So surely that's going to lead to my success. Denying the fact that we can also be successful as ourselves.
Right. We can pull from the people who are successful, that we align our vision, our values, our purpose align, so that we can emulate the things that they're doing, but do it in a way that is true to us and not just the way that they did it. So what I call it R&D, rob and duplicate, but rob and duplicate, making it your own.
That's wonderful.
Which is essential. And I do just want to say, if anyone has any questions, please pop them in the chat box. We would love to hear from you. If you, Shannon would be I would imagine, grateful to answer any questions and help anyone out. So if you've got anything, please pop it in the chat box. I'm going to ask you another question, Shannon. And traveling all around the world, living in so many different areas around the world, have you found this to be consistent? Do most people try to conform?
Yes. To a degree, yes. I think it's rare to find people who are just their raw self, and I love it. I love every time that I see someone just being them. I think sometimes it's good if you're in a new country, you want to take on some of their customs and styles to be respectful or show deference or whatever it might be. Everything is on a scale, and so there's a modicum that we need to do. But once you take the respect part aside of it, a lot of people do. And I think as we get older, it happens less and less, because when we're younger, we're trying to figure out who we are. And so we kind of try on different types and styles and sizes, if you will, on who are we and trying to fit in. But the more we grow, the more experiences we have, hopefully we're slowing down the trying to fit in because we're developing our authentic self.
And it feels so good. I've got to say, 40s were great. 50s are even better, right? You're just like,
yeah,
just owning it.
The moment that I noticed that I wasn't doing things that I love because I was afraid that it either didn't fit into my image or I wasn't going to be as successful as people expected me to be, the moment I dropped that and started doing it, gosh, life got so much better, both at home and at work.
And it's a story that you're telling yourself, right? Like, I'm not good enough, or it might even be, I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But I think questioning ourselves, coming at things from different angles and saying, is it something that I don't really want to do? Or is this a fear that's getting in my way?
Yeah.
Again, pausing is what's really going to help with that. That's been my experience.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as you have a little humility and like to laugh.
You got to be able to laugh.
Pretty good thing. But yeah, it's fun. It also creates a lot more opportunities because we're then doing more things and trying more things, whatever that might be. So you're meeting new people, you're having new experiences, and it's further opening the aperture as well.
So Shannon, do you have any resources, specific resources? Are there any books or anything that you can recommend for people who would like to dig a little bit deeper on this?
Oh, goodness. You can read my article on LinkedIn.
I'll definitely read the article on LinkedIn. It is just, I've read it a couple of times and gleaned something every single time.
Thank you, Lisa. I think my life experiences have led me to this point, and then trying on different styles. So I can't think of any specific resources. You mentioned Brene Brown. She always has fascinating podcasts to listen to. I'd be glad to chat with anyone. I have I do a number of different things, but I have a side company that helps coaching people in transition and career transitions, and this comes up with that. But talking to people like yourself, Lisa, and others, I think is important for us to do. But I have not found any books or specific podcasts or things that were this watershed moment for me. I think I've been very grateful that my life experiences, from living in West Africa as a young child and then back in my 20s in East Africa and the islands and the different jobs I've had, is what brought me to this point.
Looking at yourself, which I think is just so important. There is one book that just came to mind when you were talking that has helped me over the last few years, where I've really been digging deep into that authenticity piece, and it's called The 7 Laws of Enough. Little gray book. It's you could read it in a weekend, but you actually want to take it chapter by chapter, probably one chapter a week, because it's so deep, and it has these questions which really get you thinking about it and what our story is, what our lens are, what society or our community has brought us to believe about ourselves and the way that we need to show up. So again, that one is The 7 Laws of Enough. I absolutely love that book. I think it's phenomenal. Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
So I noticed we're coming up on the half an hour. So Shannon, are there any questions that I did not ask you that you would have asked yourself today?
I like that question. I don't think so. I think we've covered it all. I think my closing thoughts to this group would simply be how, the lesson's simple, right? The sooner we embrace who we really are and recognize you don't have to have lived all over the world and had those experiences to do the same thing. had a really long journey to get there. If you just realize you need to do it now, the journey's done and you can start the work. But the sooner we stop trying to fit in is the sooner that we can be more engaged and happy at work and at home. And the question is, how do we do this? We figure out who we truly are in the ways that we've discussed, and then we own it. We just simply own it. We cultivate that openness with each other. We embrace that diversity within ourselves, and we wield our power of not conforming.
Hallelujah, right? That's why Donna, who I think you two should connect because I think you would love each other. Nilifer Merchant's book, Onlyness, is amazing. It is true. Donna suggested that I read it, and I absolutely love that book. It talks about how we all are here to make our one, I think the word is ding, right? We have this special purpose for showing up, and then we connect with other people. But definitely check out that book. That is a really great book. Donna, thank you so much for suggesting that. So thank you so much, Shannon, for sharing your brilliance, bringing it, and really allowing people to step forward and start to not conform within their life.
Thank you, Lisa.
Where can people find you to reach out and to connect with you?
Part of my not trying to fit in, I'm not on social media. It's just not me. I've tried it.
Hallelujah.
But I am on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is probably the best place to find me. And then we can find ways to connect from there. But I would love to connect with many of you, whoever is interested in continue these conversations. It's really great to be here today, Lisa.
Great, thank you. And Donna says she definitely wants to connect. So thanks.
Donna. I look forward to it.
And just if you reach out, just mention that you are on the LinkedIn Live so that Shannon can know where it is that you're coming from. And thank you so much. Next week, I am going to be talking to Marian Abrams she's from Mad Motion. She is a podcasting expert, podcasting coach, and she's going to be talking about how to start a podcast. Do you want to start a podcast? There's so many people thinking about podcasting. She's going to be sharing some tips and tools. So please log in next Thursday. It's my birthday. You can come and celebrate with me at noontime on the East Coast time for, again, Marian Abrams. Thank you so much, everyone. I greatly appreciate it. And as always, to your success, whatever that success is for you. Thanks so much. Bye.